President Trump made new, sharper comments overnight after the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia admitted this weekend that Washington Post journalist Jama Khashoggi was killed inside its consulate in Turkey. After claiming at first that Khashoggi walked out of that consulate, the Saudis now have come around to the story that the columnist's death happened during a fight. The rest of the world is skeptical of that account, to put it mildly. President Trump at first said he accepted the Saudis' explanation, but in a new interview with the Washington Post, he says there has been deception and lies from the Saudis. NBC's White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell has the latest for us. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, Willie. And more from that phone interview late in the evening with the president, where he called the 33-year-old crown prince, known as MBS, a strong leader. He also said that he has not been given any information that the crown prince had knowledge of the killing or ordered it. And given all of the skepticism, the president says that he has questions, too. Juggling the campaign and crisis management. The president told reporters that after arrests in Saudi Arabia, he expects to learn more details about the death of a Washington Post journalist.
I'm not satisfied until we find the answer, but it was a big first step.
President Trump disputed a media report that U.S. officials have heard or seen recordings from inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey, where Jama Khashoggi was killed. Secretary of State Pompeo just visited the region.
That was totally false. He has not seen that, has not heard that, and I would tell you if he had. So far, we've heard about it, but nobody's seen it.
Both President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden were in Nevada Saturday. Biden sharply criticized Saudi's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman.
And now, MBS in Saudi Arabia, who I know, my Lord, he's making excuses.
Biden clearly skeptical about the Saudi claim that Khashoggi died when a fistfight got out of hand.
That old expression, some people bring a gun to a knife fight. Well, you don't bring bone saws to fights. What is going on here? It's embarrassing, but it's also dangerous.
The Nevada visits were about a Senate seat that Republicans now hold and Democrats want to flip. But they clearly saw each other as opponents.
Sleepy Joe Biden.
Now, and maybe down the line.
It's all about Donald. It's not about anything else.
The president seeing 2020.
I wish Biden the best. You know, I hope he's going to be the nominee, actually. You mean 1% Joe.
And you see a real distinction here where a Democrat like Joe Biden is willing to talk about the Saudi Arabia issue in front of voters. President Trump has been taking a lot of questions about this from reporters, but does not make that a part of his stump speech. He's using his time in front of the audiences to say he is out to try to stop a blue wave. Willie?
More on that in just a moment. Kelly O'Donnell at the White House. Thank you.